I believe that we should have a defined path to the playoff. I believe that we should have play-in games within conferences this weekend, not just conference championship games, so that Miami would be able to play Duke and, BYU would play Utah. If you just seeded it out and you had some automatic berths here and there, we would have a play-in weekend where all these teams could go and make the argument on the field and not behind the podium. So, I know that went in a direction and I'm sure you didn't expect it to, but
no, I was going to get there. So let's just go with it now, because everybody can make fun of every single coach this time of year. And I know that probably back in the day when I had the daily radio show, you'd be like, oh, can you believe what so-and-so said? And then finally you get to the point, like, what is he supposed to say? What is Sark supposed to say after his third top 10 win? He's going to go, yeah, you know what, though, that Florida loss, I don't know what the hell happened. I think the Texas argument isn't so much even about the Florida loss and how it compares to other teams' losses. It's just there's a lot of weeks there, too, where they didn't look like a great team. It's still hilarious to think against Oklahoma, they weren't even ranked because everybody was just so sick of them at that point. But they have some really good high-end stuff with this. But the Duke thing, that's the ACC's fault. And I could make fun of Manny Diaz at 7-5 going, hey, we deserve a shot at play. But what is he supposed to say?
Of course.
If anything, when you look through it, because I was looking at it, you had those 5 teams at 6-2. Duke's played UVA, who they got smashed by, didn't play SMU, didn't play Miami, didn't play Pitt, lost to Georgia Tech. They lost to Tulane with their players. They lost to UConn. They got destroyed by Illinois. And because they had the better opponent's conference winning percentage, they're playing for a chance at the playoff, and they have Miami's spot. So, this is one of those tiebreaker scenarios where this is kind of connected, but kind of its own thing. All of the conferences kind of deserve this.
Sure,
you're the ones that set this up. You're the ones that have this imbalance, whether it was Indiana last year or A&M this year, who in a way you can look at it and being like, maybe it's good they lost to Texas, because if you look at their SEC experience compared to some of these other teams, this is all of their faults for allowing this to happen. So in your scenario with the play-in and teams not in the conference championship, so you're not adding multiple, you're just adding one more game for teams. Would it just be assigned by the conference? How would that play out?
Okay, so this is a model I talked about this summer, and I know I just threw it out there, but I am in favor of an access-based defined path playoff. I think it should be 14 teams. I think we should have 2 byes at the top, the 1 and 2 seed. The 1 and 2 seed should be, and again, you could poke holes in this, and I'm not saying that it's perfect, but the top 2 seeds would be the Big Ten champ and the SEC champ. And so those 2 championship games would take place as they do now, basically 1 versus 2 in the conference, and the winner would get a bye and a top 2 seed in the playoff. The loser would go to the playoff automatically. Then what you would have is play-in games everywhere else. And there's 4 spots for the Big Ten, 4 spots for the SEC, 2 each in the ACC and the Big 12, which they would never agree to, but I think it's the best model, and it's probably the most correct model. So the play-in games would look like this. If you're in the top 6 seeds in the SEC or the Big Ten, you would get a chance to play a play-in game. So this weekend, Iowa would go to Oregon, winner goes. This weekend, Michigan would go back to USC, winner goes. This weekend, Oklahoma would go to Ole Miss, winner goes. Texas would go back to A&M after beating them this weekend, winner goes. My question my question would be, hey, Texas fans, would you rather have a chance on the field in 60 minutes against A&M, or take your chances with 13 people behind closed doors in a committee room? And I think that they would much rather have their chances on the field. In the Big 12, it would look like this: Houston at Texas Tech, Utah at BYU, winner goes. Hey, Utah and BYU, would you like that opportunity? Probably. And the ACC would be Georgia Tech against Virginia, Miami against Duke, winner goes. You'd have 2 at-large spots for the group of 5 champion. They would get in. And then I would take the next highest ranked team, which is Vanderbilt, and say, hey, you played Notre Dame, winner goes. So we would be playing all those games, and we'd be creating a 14-team playoff on the field with a defined path versus having this selection-based model and having these arguments about what resume is better or what eye test is better. I think it would be a better version for the fans, and it would be a better version for the players.
Well, we know we don't like the computers. We know we don't like the people. So maybe the games anything. Look, I don't like that it's 12. I don't like that we're sitting here arguing about Vandy, BYU, and Utah, and maybe even Texas.
You could think they're too flawed. Is that what you're saying? That's like, this is too much. It's too expanded.
Look, if the 12-team playoff played out for 20 years, okay, you would have years you're like, that team is still alive for a chance at a national championship. And that is my problem. It's not the years. Like, again, my whole thing is that flawed systems don't show their flaws in the years the flaws are exposed. Like they're, and I'm not asking for perfect because that's impossible. I just know that if we had 20 years of this with 12 teams, we'd be like, this year it's actually too crowded, right? It feels like teams are going to be left out that are worthy. I just think a national championship is so special. And that if you've proven that you're not remotely special through the 12 games and maybe the conference game, like, again, these would be the teams that wouldn't be in a conference championship game. I just don't like the idea that it's like, okay, but now you're also invited with these other guys for a chance at a national championship. And people say, hey, you the NFL has that. I'd be like, I don't like that either. Okay. But that's a different topic. So go ahead.
I don't know if you can solve all problems. So let's start with that premise, right? I think every playoff model has its downsides in every sport. And I think that's part of the problem in college is that we try to create this like perfect scenario. It's like, we don't want to leave a team out. It's like, well, sometimes teams are left out.
I want to leave teams out on the record, by the way.
And sometimes you include teams that shouldn't, right? Yeah. Based on these flawed systems. And I hear what you're saying. And so what I'm hearing you say is like in 23, you were like, hey, sorry, two-time defending champ Georgia with one loss to Bama. It's just like, it is what it is. You lost the game, and now you're not in the 4-team playoff. And I think some people in college football wanted to, quote, right that wrong and go to the expanded version. I think that we get more arguments of flawed resumes the more we expand. Like the answer to this year's playoff is not further expansion. I just vehemently disagree with that. I believe that it is the way the playoff is made. Make it a defined path. We know in the NFL how teams go to the playoff. I also believe, to your point about conferences doing this to themselves, I firmly believe that with the size of these conferences, they need to look long and hard about creating schedules based on where you finished the previous year. I think you should play a tougher schedule if you're a better team. You should play an easier schedule if you're a worse team, rather than randomly doing it. And Oklahoma having like a ridiculously tough schedule and A&M having a ridiculously weak schedule in the SEC. I think it should be based on where you finished the prior year. But these are all discussions that I feel like get into the weeds, and you can lose. Some fans are like, what are you talking about? Because the bottom line is our sport has never been more popular, and I don't think it's ever been as good. And that's been bearing out in the numbers when people are consuming it and interested in it. And I'm thankful for that.
I always wonder sometimes, like, if all of this is actually always good for the sport, the same way that people complain about player empowerment in the NBA. And it's like, these guys can just, it used to be, I want out. And then it's like, you can sign an extension and then ask out before the extension kicks in. Like, that's bold. And then that actually became kind of normal. And yet it was, you could argue, really good for the sport. It was all the drama. It was all the BS. But, that's part of the college football thing that made it a fun topic. It's a fun topic to discuss.